So I'm going to be breaking down the people's main event this weekend between Jack Della Maddalena and the Trailblazer Kevin Holland. As soon as this fight got announced, and I knew about this fight before it got announced, I was so fucking hyped up for it. I did all my tape study and everything for it. I watched clips from both men. I watched both their fights back. Both are two of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC. But in this fight, I'm gonna have to go with uh, I'm going with Jack Della Maddalena here. I know a lot of people have lost their hype on him a little bit after that Basil Hafez fight, but Basil Hafez, he's literally he reminds me a lot of like a more powerful version of Marvin Vettori. Like he's got the durability of Marvin Vettori. He's got arguably better jiu-jitsu than Marvin Vettori, but very durable, powerful as well, more powerful than Marvin Vettori, but that guy's durability was just insane, but also a lot of why that fight was like borderline competitive, even though it really only was the first round. Like I know he had control in the second, but he didn't do anything with it. And Jack was piecing him up, but it was all because of Jack's fight IQ in that fight. I think he's going to correct his mistakes he made in that Basil and Fez fight, and I think Kevin Holland's really he's pretty good. He's powerful. He's durable. He's looked really good at welterweight, but like I don't think people are realizing the guys that Kevin Holland is beating at welterweight are all like none of them are under the age of 35. Like the youngest guy he beat at welterweight was Michael Chiesa, and that was after a 2 year layoff for Chiesa, and he looked pretty bad in that fight against Sean Brady before that as well. And then do you really rate a win over Cowboy Oliveira at this point? Kiefer Crosby has a KO win over him in the first round, and we've just seen Kiefer Crosby get destroyed by Kevin Doucette last weekend. And then you can't really rate a win over Tim Means at this point too. Tim Means is, he's lost quite a few fights. He's fighting Andre Fialho soon, so we'll see how he does there. But I just think Jack has actually beat at welterweight. I'm saying, Holland did beat Anthony Hernandez, which was, aged really well for him. Uh, he beat. Who else is like a good win for him? I guess you can't really say Jacare's a good win. He retired and he also lost to Muniz afterwards. But, Anthony Hernandez is a really good win for Kevin Holland. But, yeah, outside of that, you can't really rate too many. He beat Joaquin Buckley, but I don't really rate Buckley that highly. Like we've seen Buckley get chinned quite a lot. He's not the most durable guy. Alessio De Chirico knocked him out cold. Chris Curtis knocked him out cold. Like Buckley's not really the most durable guy, and still it's a decent win for Kevin Holland. I'm not shitting on Kevin Holland's resume. I really like Kevin Holland, but I'm noticing, especially at welterweight, all of his wins are against older fighters. Like Tim Means is on a bit of a losing streak at the moment. He lost to Alex Morono as well, and like I said, Alex Oliveira even lost to some random guy on the regional scene. He lost to uh, Michelle Silva by Anaconda choke. Got TKO'd by Kiefer Crosby in the first round. Like, yeah, I just you could tell that Cowboy Oliveira was a bit past it, even in his fights against Shavkat, Randy Brown, Nico Price. Like that Nico Price loss hasn't aged very well for Cowboy Oliveira too. And then yeah, Holland even lost the first round to Alex Oliveira. Obviously, different stylistic matchup to what Jack's going to give him, but just I see a lot of people using that uh, fight with Holland. I mean Della and Hafez to say JDM's is overrated. It's like well, it doesn't work that way though. And then I actually reckon that Jack Della's wins. Now this is going to be a hot take, I know, but I reckon his wins are arguably better than Kevin Holland's because you look at the guys Jack Della's beat. Obviously he beat Randy Brown, who's not like a bad fighter. He's very similar to Kevin Holland. Obviously Kevin Holland's more powerful, more durable, longer fighter, but I'd say he's more technical. But he went on to beat Wellington Turman. So there's a fighter he's beat that went on to win. Then you got Angelusa, who's on a two-fight winning streak in the UFC against AJ Fletcher and Reese McKee. So that's another good age win. Obviously, Kevin Doucette just beat Kiefer Crosby, so that's another good win for Jack Della. He beat him on the regional scene. Pete Rodriguez, he went on to win his next fight. Obviously, it was against Mike Jackson, so you can't rate that too highly. Danny Roberts, he lost his next fight, but it was competitive between him and Johnny Parsons. And obviously, Ramazan Ameev hasn't fought since, so we don't know. But even some of the guys he's beat on the regional scene, like Alden Bates, is he's killing it right now on the Australian regional scene. He's on a two-fight winning streak against a guy Stu Dare who fought Israel Adesanya, and he also beat uh, John Vake, who's like a CKB guy, a wrestler, and yeah, he beat him. So like Jack Della's wins are all aging pretty well for him. Like he's got some of the best age wins in my opinion. So, like, I know that that's a hot take, but I reckon his wins are like better aged. They're against younger competition, and even Basil Hafez, I reckon that win's going to age pretty well for him as well. I think Basil Hafez can win quite a few fights. Basil Hafez went to a draw with Jeremiah Wells and won with the grappling, and we see how dominant Jeremiah Wells is on the ground in these fights. But to break down the actual fight itself and not just going off resume, I think Jack Della, watching the Wonderboy fight, obviously Wonderboy is a karate practitioner, a completely different style to the boxing heavy style that Jack Della Maddalena has. But I think we've seen with Wonderboy, he was going a lot to the body against Kevin Holland. He was hurting him to the body. At one point, Kevin Holland actually panic shot against Wonderboy. Like originally, he didn't do any takedowns. He didn't stay on top of him or anything. But eventually, all the body shots were getting to him, and he had to panic shoot because he couldn't take them body shots. And I think if like Wonderboy is 40, I think he was about 40 at the time, and obviously he's still good, but his power isn't really there. He's not as powerful with his shots anymore, but he's still very technical and still very good. But I think with somebody with the power of Jack Della Maddalena, if he can get you against the fence, which I think he will, I think he'll get Holland pressed up against the fence. And I think if he lands like a really good body shot, I think Kevin Holland's going to fold. He's got a really good chin, so I don't know if Jack Della Maddalena is going to go out there and knock Kevin Holland out cold. I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong. But I think the body work from Jack Della Maddalena here can really work to his advantage because he's got some of the nastiest body shots you'll see in the UFC. Even in mixed martial arts in general, he's got some of the nastiest body shots. Like he utilizes them so well. And obviously Kevin Holland's got a big reach advantage, but I just know Jack even said in his pre-fight interview he's going to fight Mexican style, which is very dangerous because Kevin Holland's got fucking power for days. But Jack Della Maddalena's got a really good chin. I've only seen him get rocked once in a fight, and it was literally to a fucking flush head kick, and he won the fight like 20 seconds later after getting fucking flushed head kicked. So he's got a pretty good chin. Obviously, you can't rely on that chin against someone like Kevin Holland, but the people say that Jack Della Maddalena doesn't have head movement. He does have pretty good head movement, but I guess it's when he's exchanging, it's a little dangerous, but I think he's gonna get Kevin Holland against the fence, and I think he's gonna drop him to a real powerful body shot. And yeah, I think that's how the fight's gonna go. Second round body shot TKO for Jack Della Maddalena, but it's gonna be a dangerous fight. Obviously, Kevin Holland, he does a lot of like wild stuff, like he'll do like flying hammer fists, and he's got a lot of power in his shots. Like he's got really really good power. Throws really long strikes, but his defense, leaves a lot to be desired. When he throws like the big overhands, he's always like his chin's just always out there. So if Jack Della Maddalena can time him perfectly, he could maybe catch him with the 1-2. I don't, but like I say, Kevin Holland's really durable. We've only really seen him get dropped to like a head strike with a headbutt from Kyle Dorcas, and headbutts are illegal. So that's not like a shot you're really going to see anyone utilize against Kevin Holland unless they want to get DQ'd. But Yeah, I really do like this fight for Jack Della Maddalena. I've seen a lot of people say, well, Kevin Holland's just going to come out and wrestle. It's like, when does Kevin Holland ever do that? Only time he's really done that was against John Phillips, and John Phillips has literally the worst takedown defense in the UFC. He's not in the UFC anymore, but he was up there with some of the worst takedown defense in the UFC. We've seen the Iron Turtle literally fucking Hamzat Chimaev him, and then we also seen Hamzat Chimaev him though, which you can't really hold against John Phillips there, but we've just seen that guy doesn't have very good takedown defense at all. So I don't really rate Kevin Holland wrestle fucking John Phillips. Like, John Phillips was getting wrestle fucked by Frank Trigg in like 2013 when Frank Trigg was, way past his prime. So I'm not really going to rank that uh, from Kevin Holland too highly. And also, Jack Della Maddalena showed good takedown defense against Basil Hafez anyway. Like, he stuffed so many takedowns, but it was just because he kept going for them stupid fucking guillotines. Now, if he goes for the guillotine in this fight, live bet Kevin Holland, because if he does that, just live bet Kevin Holland, because it's gonna fuck him over if he does that. But I'm decently confident. This is a tough fight for both men, though. They're both really good. Obviously, we don't know what Kevin Holland looks like against like a younger fighter though at this point, because he's just beaten a lot of older fighters, like especially a welterweight. And the reason I bring this up is because if you look at someone like Kelvin Gastelum, you know, he beats all the older fighters they give him. Like, if you look at Kelvin Gastelum's resume, he's got Vitor Belfort, Michael Bisping, uh, like all the fighters that he beat are all over the age of like 34, something around them. Like, he's never beat anybody younger than him. Like, it's actually a fact if you go through Kelvin Gastelum's record, and it always makes me think like, well, if he can only do that against older fighters, what's it going to be like when he fights a younger fighter? And almost the majority of the time, I think almost literally every time Kelvin Gastelum's fought a fighter younger than him, he's lost. Obviously, I'm not saying that Kevin Holland and Kelvin Gastelum are the exact same guy, but it is a weird trend when you go look at it. So, like, I don't know, it just seems that some fighters look a lot better just because they're fighting older fighters. Like, I'm not saying that Kevin Holland is very good. I'm not discrediting him as a fighter. Like, he is a very good fighter. He's got good wins, but I just think this is going to be one of those fights that he doesn't win. I really rate the boxing from Jack Della Maddalena here, and I know he's got a big reach disadvantage, but it doesn't matter at this point. Now, I will say that Kevin Holland isn't like the exact same as Kelvin Gastelum, because obviously he does have wins against guys younger than him. I just mean at welterweight. Like, I'm just talking about the welterweight version of Kevin Holland. Like, because I think I don't think it's a controversial take to say that the welterweights are a lot more skilled than the middleweights. And, as Kevin Holland is coming down from middleweight, obviously his skill set isn't that high level for welterweight. A lot of his fights, he's relying on his power, which he does have. He has really good power, but he's still got a middleweight skill set at welterweight, and I think someone is eventually going to use that against him because, like I say, middleweight, I believe, is the least skilled division in the UFC. Well, second least skilled. Obviously, heavyweight is the most least skilled, but I just rate the welterweight skill set a lot higher than I do the middleweight skill set, and I think Jack Della Maddalena is like an actual welterweight. Like, he's fought at welterweight his whole career. He had 2 fights at middleweight, but besides that, he's welterweight built. He's just got that welterweight skill set, and you know what I mean. If you go watch like an unranked middleweight fight compared to like an unranked welterweight fight, there's a clear difference in skill. Now, I know it sounds like I'm waffling a little bit here, but like I do have a point to all this. Like you'll notice anytime a guy moves down to welterweight from middleweight, they have a little bit of success, but there's just a level they reach where the middleweight in them just comes out. And as Kevin Holland's fought the majority of his career at middleweight, I think people will notice that in this fight. But yeah, I guess I waffled a little bit there, but like a lot of people know what I'm talking about when I say that there's like a clear difference. Like when it comes to like obviously every time you move up a division, the skill set gets worse. But I think welterweight and middleweight is like a big difference in skill. At least that's what I believe personally. And you know, Holland's are really reliant on his like reach when it comes to these fights, and not his overall skill. Obviously, he's got good jiu-jitsu and he's powerful, but he doesn't really. He's not like a technical striker. Obviously, maybe that will help because Jack is very technical with the high guard and everything. But I just think that Jack Della Maddalena is going to show the welterweight skill set here, and I think he's just going to get. I don't think it's going to look identical to the Randy Brown fight because I do think Kevin Holland is a lot more durable than Randy Brown, but I just think we're going to see Jack Della Maddalena get him against the fence, and I think he's just going to unload some body shots. Maybe Kevin Holland can catch him when he does that because he does have a long reach, but I think it will negate his long reach if Jack Della Maddalena can get him against the fence because obviously he's not going to be able to wind up his 81-inch reach, I think it is. He's not going to be able to wind up them big punches when he's like pressed against the fence. So yeah, I like Jack Della Maddalena in this fight by body shot TKO. That's how I'm got this going. But it should be an entertaining fight either way. I either think he's going to get him second round TKO to body shots, or it's going to go to a decision. That's just the way I see this fight going. Even if maybe Holland gets him in like a submission position, Jack Della Maddalena is shown to just like not to need oxygen when he's in submissions, like against Ramazan Emeev, against Angelusa. He will find a way out of it. He just refuses to tap. Like I don't know. I think he's the type of guy who'd rather black out before he taps out. It seems like he just doesn't need oxygen, is what I'm getting at here. But I guess we'll find out. I'm excited for this fight. I'm a big fan of both men. Like I really like both of them. So this is going to be very bittersweet to see one of them lose. But I'm pretty I'm leaning pretty heavy towards Jack Della Molina, but I'm going to be nervous as fuck though, obviously, because I always am for my favorite fighters. So this is gonna be a great fight. Like I'm very excited for it, but fuck man, it's gonna be very bittersweet. But yeah, I guess I've waffled on enough about this fight. I got JDM second round TKO, but thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.